Hey all, back again for another update on my Voxel Space project. So for this week, I was focused a lot on optimization. I mentioned it last week, is that definitely the chunk generation was a bit on the slow side, and that was chewing up a whole bunch of my performance. So lots of behind the scenes work there, but it did have some unexpected kind of positive effects for both gameplay and visually. So while I was looking into why the chunk generation was so inefficient, I found that there was actually a bug that prevented me from ever creating a transparent block that was also collidable. And so you can probably see the texture on these windows and stuff is a little bit different to what it was. And that's because I've implemented glass now. So I can have translucent blocks that you can see through that are included in the collision mesh. So I can't jump out this window anymore, for example, and I can bump my head on the glass above me, which is cool. Like it's definitely interesting to like add that block type just because I didn't have it, but it's actually kind of helped in a different way to what I expected. So up till now, I've been dealing with a whole bunch of bugs around like moving between two ships. And because you could just like, the way to enter a ship was basically to go through the windows because they were just really water blocks. That's what I did. And anyway, what that ended up doing was it meant that you could enter these ships in all different ways, and it wasn't immediately clear when you had entered the interior of a ship. And so it's hard to have these test conditions. But what adding these blocks has done has made it so that you can't just jump out the window and go and float over to another ship. You need to be more deliberate than that. You need to go and maybe walk out a doorway. This ship's probably not the best example of that. But on some of the smaller ships that are in orbit around the planet, I've added doorways so that I can go in and out of those ships. And it kind of gives a nice place to do some tests to see if you're oriented in the correct way. So I'm really happy with that. I think that's actually kind of a big change. It's kind of allowed me to keep moving forward instead of like focusing on all these nitty gritty little bugs around changing which ship you're currently on. So yeah, you can see you can like collide with this and you don't walk through it. Yeah, you can pick them up and place them and all that kind of thing. I've pretty much like manually went around and replaced all of the water blocks in the ships that I've been testing on, and it's been working really well. I guess the other thing is the head bumping problem. I don't know if you've seen in previous videos, it's popped up from time to time, but when you jump underneath a roof and hit your head, you would have a tendency to like glitch into the block above you. But I think I've figured that out now and made some changes. It's a little bit inconsistent. Like I can get it to happen occasionally, but anyway, it's behaving really well right now. So anyway, it's working for the most part. And then the other thing is I've had bugs for a while around chunk updates where there's like multiple chunks. So it happens to be this doorway is a really good example. There's multiple chunks all intersecting here. So like the world's split up into 8 by 8 by 8 chunks. This doorway happens to be sitting on 4. So there's a chunk here, there's a chunk here, a chunk here, and a chunk here. But look, if you watch me change this, it all changes at once, even though updates have to be done across 4 chunks. So that's fixed a really glitchy thing. Like when I initially implemented doors, they were working really well, and then I started to run into this bug, and it got worse and worse as I added more stuff. When now it's like very consistent, and I mean the single-size doors were always pretty consistent, but now the double doors are really good as well. So I'm pretty happy with how that's played out as well. Otherwise, I think still mostly what I'm working on is behind the scenes. So I want to keep improving the chunk generation. The main reason is that I'd really like to be able to have a further draw distance. A further like chunk draw distance, voxel draw distance on planets. Because now I can generate planets that are pretty big efficiently. And then the next step after that will be just like loading into the client. It actually takes like a really long time, maybe like 3 minutes to start up the client, because it has to go and download all the chunk data. But actually, that's not even the problem with the chunk data. It has to go and download. Oh, it's not the downloading, sorry. Client side, it has to generate all the geometry for the level of details on the planets. And as you scale up the planets, that grows exponentially. And so there's that really big planet. Oh yeah, you can just see it out in the distance there. It's sort of dark through the window. But that planet, I think it's like 128 chunks across or something. I would like to make them bigger than that. But anyway, it takes a long time to generate the level of detail mesh, so that as you get closer, you see it like become more detailed until finally you render chunks. So, I mean, that's still my focus. I'll still be working on that. Other than that, I'm getting really close. I think all the bugs I had around players on other ships not being rendered in the correct position are all fixed now. I obviously have some lighting stuff to fix, like these flowers. You can just see that they're lit. That's because the distance from the star is being taken into account for how bright they are. And the star's obviously quite a ways away. Yeah, and there's some bugs there too. I've been working on star rendering. It's coming along. I've been doing it in a separate like standalone app, and I'll pull that across shortly when it's ready to go. But this stuff has kind of got some complexities around which direction the camera's facing, affecting how the surface is rendered. And so when you're on the wrong side of the star, it doesn't render correctly. It renders it way too bright, which is why you see all that white. Yeah, and the ship in the distance in orbit there. I think that's everything for now. Yeah, I'll be back next week with another update. Hopefully a bit more substantial. I've got like I said, a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes at the moment, so it's a bit hard to find those cool things to show off on YouTube. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you got any questions or anything like that, shoot them down below. I really enjoy answering those questions. Yeah, and otherwise, I'll see you next week. Cheers.